Welcome back to the Crazy Bone Podcast. I'm joined today by my co-host Leo Martinez, and we are at my house today for a change. Normally we're at the DEA Ranch with Leo, and you have to excuse me if the audio or anything sounds weird today. I'm trying out a new headset, and I sound like Darth Vader already. Well, we have some things, I guess, planned that we've talked about, and we've said, hey, we need to get this on a podcast. I think we need to cover some management things. Mm-hmm. We need to cover the value of a hunt if you're paying to go on a hunt. And
not just us. I mean, I've had a lot of people,
right,
as they have with you, going, hey,
do more on this. Yeah, do this, do that. Right,
you know,
right.
So.
I think we should touch on a little bit of the high fence versus low fence. We are live right now on Facebook, the Crazy Bone Hunting Facebook page. So if you have questions there, you can hit us up. I can't see the phone from here, but we've got Madison on standby. She's going to try to read us some questions every now and then. You'll have to excuse us if we don't get to them.
Can they hear us all right?
That's a good question. Can you guys hear okay? I feel like I'm yelling to compensate for this mic, but...
No. That sounds good. I
mean,
that sounds a whole lot better than what it did a little while ago.
Okay, good. First, some management things. I feel like I'm at the point now we're kind of done hunting on our ranch. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of people say, hey, do you have any hunts available? How much are they? Yada, yada, yada. And I said, man, I'm sorry, we don't have any hunts left this year. We've killed off all the deer that kind of fit the bill.
Fit your plan.
Right. And, yeah, and like you said, my plan. Because my plan is different than your plan.
Absolutely, 100%.
Because I don't like to kill my management deer really after the rut.
Right.
Because I feel like, well, what's the point? Next year, they stand a chance of getting a little bit bigger next year and then being a better...
Sell.
Yeah, sell or more of a trophy deer for someone else.
Sure.
But still could fit into my management plan and kind of a best of both worlds. Because I'm not, hell, they've already been through the rut. If they're going to breed, they did it. So what's the point? And my older bucks now, they're gone.
Well, and it's not so much that you didn't. I guess you say if you leave them this late, but you're done with them. You've shot what.
We've shot what we wanted
your target
to shoot.
deer are gone.
Right. And there's a couple left that we didn't get. Yeah. We actually had a hunter come last weekend, and his wife got an awesome deer. She was after a deer in the 130s, and we ended up getting a deer that was 144, and that was my fault. They still paid the 130s price.
Sure.
But the deer was so big, his body was huge. He was 207 pounds, which is big for us.
It's big anywhere.
And so it made his antlers look a lot smaller. So good for them. And but anyways, the husband was after a management deer, something in the high teens, 120s, 8 point, something like that. And we had a particular buck in mind, and we just could not get on him. And that was the problem. See, earlier in the year, these management bucks were just running around everywhere. Okay, there's one. Shoot him. Well, we're down to one.
I was going to be real sarcastic.
Oh, about the high fence?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean you couldn't get on it?
Yeah, it's a high fence.
It's easy.
Fish in a barrel.
Just go out there and shoot it.
That's right.
I mean,
that's what we do.
How hard is that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's that's frustrating. Yeah, so a lot of people think the whole high fence thing is super, super easy, and I guess maybe it is easier to an extent, but we're looking for specific deer because we have goals in mind, and we use that fence as a tool.
Sure, as it should be.
Right. Mm-hmm. People say, "Oh, you've got them caged in, and you're just killing deer." And
the classic answer, and I know a lot of people say it, and a lot of people are going to hear this and go, "Oh, sure, you're not trying to keep your deer in; you're trying to keep your neighbor's deer out."
Yeah. I
mean, that's basically it. You don't need your neighbor's deer. You don't want your neighbor's deer. That's just more deer you're going to have to hunt.
Right, which kind of goes back to why the fence went up.
Sure.
It was the neighbors.
Sure.
They were slaughtering deer,
yeah.
It was legal.
Sure.
And by all means, I have no right to say, hey, guys, stop doing that. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to manage your land, I mean, they were on a little 350-acre place, and they were shooting 6 to 8 deer a weekend. Mm-hmm. And by all means, the state says you can do
Absolutely.
it. Then who am I to say don't?
Stop. Yep.
So we'll just make it to where.
Now, the one thing that people don't realize, there's some ranches out there that are the co-ops, where and I've seen them and they work. You just got to get everybody on the same sheet of music to where you say, okay, I've got 300 acres, I've got 500 acres, I've got 200, and you make 5,000.
Right.
And this guy gets one deer, this guy, but you have got to trust your neighbor.
Ooh,
and
yeah, good luck.
It works. I've seen a couple that, I mean, they're just committed.
Really?
Well, you've got the mindset of, okay, am I going to go shoot 6, 105-inch 8 points, or am I going to wait my turn, just like these guys that are put in for the lottery and the to hunt Arizona for elk?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to wait my turn, but I'm going to go shoot 180-inch deer, 170-inch deer, which I may never be able to shoot on this 250 acres. But there's one, but he's coming back and forth because he comes between me and the neighbor and da-da-da-da-da. Well, hey, you know what? This year, if he's on your place, you get to shoot a deer. Or you shoot that deer, or you shoot a particular deer, however they work their management.
Right.
And I've seen some that work.
Right.
But it's tough.
It is tough because you've got that guy that spent, umpteen dollars on his ranch. I mean, he spent a bunch of his hard-earned money on that ranch, and he thinks, well, by God, this is my property.
It's my property. I can do what I want. And I'm a big believer of property rights in the state of Texas. Yeah. It's your property. You can do what you want to with it.
That's right.
I mean, we've had the discussion. You want to put 10,000 goats on it, you can put 10,000 goats on it.
Right.
You want to go shoot all the deer because it's legal, then, by God, go do it.
Right.
Just like you said, your neighbors are doing it.
Yeah, so, but don't get pissed off at me when I put a high fence up around my place.
When those
which they did, man. They called, and, what are you doing? You're messing up our hunting. And
yeah.
I said, well, what? I don't understand what we've done.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any more deer. Well, maybe you should manage things differently. But again, hey, it's your property. Do what you want to. But anyways, gosh, we got off on a tangent. I don't even know what the hell we were talking about now.
We're talking about your management.
Yeah.
Looking for that deer.
Looking for that deer.
Particular deer.
So we never found the deer. The guy went home not empty-handed. We got his wife got a nice buck, and they ended up getting 2 does for the freezer, which I don't really like shooting does in the rut either. And you may think differently because management's all different. I don't like shooting my does in the rut or after the rut because are they bred? Well, I don't know. Okay, maybe they are bred. What buck bred them? Did that little dink management buck breed them, or did the biggest buck I have on the ranch breed them? Well, I don't know. And at this point, I feel like, well, shit, I'm not taking the gamble. I don't have that many deer on the ranch to gamble with, so I'm just gonna let it slide. Then we'll slaughter those beginning of the year next year, which is, I understand, isn't how most people do it.
No.
But am I wrong for doing it that way?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, it's your choice. But there's ranches out right now that are just saying, hey, we're just fixing to start shooting our does.
Right.
Because they're concentrating on the bucks. And you've got to also look at, okay, you're hunting 700 acres where we can go shoot our does early and then get on our bucks. Or are you hunting 5,000 acres?
Right.
Where you're going, hey, man, this is why we have the MLD tags. So we can start early and finish late to get everything finished.
Right.
I mean, I think the true reason for the MLD is for that.
Sure.
So we can start early and get on our deer and our does, and then, okay, we missed some. Let's go ahead and finish, late. So
there's a very well-known ranch who will be a guest on the show soon. I'm not going to give much away on that, but I was talking to him the other day, and he said he's about to start shooting his doe fawns. Mm-hmm. And I said, "You're what?"
Absolutely.
I said, "What do you mean?"
Absolutely.
He says, "Well, in January we'll start shooting our doe fawns, and we'll shoot." I think he said something like 75 of them. Mm-hmm. I'm like, "You're gonna shoot doe fawns?" Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I asked, "Why are you waiting this late in the year?" And then, also, why do you do it? And he said, "Well, we wait till later in the year because the bucks will have more pronounced nubs on their head, so we have fewer mistakes in that aspect." But I don't understand
that's what we would do.
I don't understand harvesting the doe fawns.
We'd wait till January.
So you've done that too. You've harvested a bunch of doe fawns.
Absolutely.
Can you explain that to me and everyone listening?
To us, it was numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets down to density. How many do you have to harvest? How many, and the age class?
Yeah.
If you really want to break it down, are you going to go shoot? When somebody says, "Oh, we're going to go shoot all the barren does," no, because they're not barren. tell me what a barren doe is.
A doe that has babies.
That has not had babies.
Oh, my bad.
A barren doe, as they're saying, is a doe that hasn't had babies, right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so she's barren. She's not having any offspring. Well, she's probably had offspring. She's
kicked them off, or they've died.
They've died. Predators got them. She lost them early in the pregnancy.
Sure.
I mean, it's a tough time, to go through.
It's tough living down there.
Go through summertime in South Texas. It's hot, it's dry, it doesn't rain, and they do it in the pens.
Right.
Our experience watching does in the pen, and you go, I saw her get bred, and then she didn't have fawns, or she has the fawns and they're stillborn. How many stillborn fawns do you have in the pens? And again, crossing over into the breeding, and I know we don't talk a lot about it a lot, but if you're not using your breeding to learn what's going on out in the pasture, then you're missing the boat.
Right.
But if you see your does in the pen and say, well, she just had stillborns, I wonder why. Well, can you imagine how many in the pasture are having stillborn? This is optimum living.
Right.
They've got feed, they've got water, they've got, everything they need. They got shade, they're stress-free.
They've got health care.
They've got, well, I was going to be real sarcastic. I'm not going to get political. I'm not going to name the previous administration.
Yeah.
But they do. But basically, they've got everything they need. And they're going to lose these fawns. And you think, you've got such, this is an easy life, supposedly.
Yeah.
But can you imagine what it's like out in the pasture? Where
tough living.
It's tough living. So, if you waited and said, okay, well, we're going to shoot all the does with no fawns, you wouldn't shoot any does. You might shoot a few.
Yeah.
But, somebody asked me just the other day, I had a guy, we were texting back and forth, and he's working on his place and he's trying to get his numbers down. And he had to shoot X amount of bucks and X amount of does. And I asked this question a long time ago for that, because we would sit there and we would just talk about, management. And I don't know if most of these guys probably heard of him, Jimmy Rutledge. And to me, Jimmy is probably one of the greatest biologists in the state of Texas. Jimmy literally wrote the book on South Texas brush. There's a book out there if you go look. He's got a book out identifying everything
in South Texas.
Yeah. So we would walk through the brush and I'd be like, what's that? And I know he'd get tired of me. He'd just probably just go, just stop. I already told you what that was. Why didn't you, So anyway, I asked that same question to Jimmy one time. I said, what? And I'll tell you what he told me, and it was a great response, and I had never, ever, ever forgot it. But I asked him, I said, okay, well, what does do we shoot? Because we were just sitting around talking one afternoon. He was out at the ranch, and I said, so what does? People say, well, shoot the barren does, shoot the big does, shoot the does with no fawns, shoot the, yada, yada, yada. And he looked at me and he said, you shoot the ones that stand still. Real simple.
Wow.
Shoot the ones that stand still. The ones that stop and offer you a shot, an opportunity, that's the one you shoot.
Damn.
How are you going to pick and choose between, okay, well, yeah, and then I've seen some places say, okay, we're going to break it down into age classes. Well, that's way down the road.
Yeah.
When they say, okay, well, we're going to, like this guy's doing, and it's, and I know who you're talking about, and he's great. He's got his management down, and there's proof, proof in the pudding.
Oh, yeah, he's got it together.
His deer are right there.
No, when I asked him those questions, why and yada, 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 I wasn't asking him because...
Oh, yeah.
Because I doubted him.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's to learn. It's more to learn.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've asked those questions, and that's, and I would try to micromanage, so much. And again, Jimmy, and the last podcast we did, I said, I hung out with these biologists, and I didn't name his name, but I don't care. Jimmy's one to just say, really? He'll call me and go, I don't know if he even listens to the podcast, but if somebody calls him and goes, hey, I just heard you on a podcast, he's going to call me and go, really, dude? Come on. Because he's very humble. He's just not that guy. But Jimmy was hanging out with Roy Hines back in the late 80s, early 90s, back when it was like... Yeah,
before management
was really a thing. Before management was management, man.
Wow.
And so Jimmy was like, and when I met him, in the early 90s, I was just picking everything I could from him, going, hey. And he was just kind enough to sit there and answer my questions, even the dumb ones, which most of them were dumb ones. But he told me one day we were sitting on some of the best dirt you've ever seen for growing big deer. I mean, we were standing out in the middle of this pasture, and we're driving through it, and I'm just peppering him with questions, and he's answering. And finally, he just said, "Look," he said, "here's the deal." He said, "You have all the ingredients to bake the cake, right?" And I said, "Okay." He said, "You have all the ingredients on the table." He said, "Flour, milk, eggs, da-da-da-da-da." And I said, "Right." He said, "You see those eggs right there?" He said, "Quit worrying what color chicken laid the eggs."
What the hell?
Put the eggs in the ingredients, mix it up, and let it bake. The most important part is baking that cake in the oven, and don't keep opening the oven to peek.
So he's telling you quit asking questions and get to it?
No, he's telling me quit micromanaging about, what dose do I shoot? We shoot a dose. And then we'll worry about that later.
Right.
Shoot your dose. Get your numbers where they need to be.
Okay.
Quit worrying about
Well, okay, now
like
you
that.
keep
Well,
saying
I need to shoot all my bucks first. Well, you shoot them when the opportunity arises. You
Right.
have the opportunity
right.
and a lot of times here we're playing the devil's advocate. I
Sure.
do it with Jerison all the time, and he's like, "Really?" Because I think we get a lot of information out. But like I said, the guy you're talking about, his ranch is bigger,
A lot bigger. Yeah.
and so sometimes they can't. In between, we got ranch stuff to do, let alone we got to fill feeders, we got to do this, cottonseed, we got to do this and the other, apart from that. And then we got hunters coming, and then we got to get this ready, and then and then life.
Yeah.
He's got a job.
He's got kids and a job
kids and a family.
Yeah.
And so it's an opportunity deal.
Right.
If his opportunity is in January and it works for him, go knock him out.
So, and you keep saying numbers, get your numbers down or get them where they need to be. Let's talk a little bit about that and explain that. Explain the numbers game to people. Because a lot of people think, and this is kind of an old school way of thinking, that, well, the more does I have, then the more bucks I'll have, and the more deer I'll have.
Sure.
And yeah, that's true. But in an ideal situation when you're trying to manage things, more isn't necessarily better.
Correct. Quantity over quality.
Right.
What do you want?
Right.
And
Do you want quality, or you want a bunch of damn deer?
It's total. What do you want?
Right.
And I have another guy who got a place here, not just right down the road from me, and they decided that, okay, we're going to take our numbers down. We're going to concentrate more on quality over quantity. Well, they went in and started doing that, and the owner, he called calf rope. He's like, "Whoa," and he's like, "I ain't seen no deer. Y'all killed all the deer." He's like, "No, we didn't. We're pressuring the deer,
Right.
and the deer are hiding from us because now we're hunting. The easy ones were the first month, first 3 weeks on the corn lines and on the feeders and then after a while they're we've taken does off of ranches that we had to hunt the does more than we had to hunt the bucks.
Right.
Because we were taking so many off because we had to get our numbers down. And he said that the owner on that place told him, just, hey, stop.
Now, are we wanting to get numbers down to save money on feed?
Not necessarily, but you could.
Right. Are we getting now? When you say quality over quantity, I get that, because obviously in our pens, that's the first thing somebody's going to tell you. Hey, I want to start breeding deer. What do I do? Well, you pick quality deer over just cheap deer for the numbers.
Sure.
So, are you saying that we need fewer does in the hopes that only our big mature bucks breed them? Or let's explain. Let's expand on that a little bit.
No, I feel like yes and no. Yes, you want the same, going back to, okay, well, we culled our deer early because you want your bigger deer
doing the breeding.
Right. Well, and again, you said, well, we take our does early too.
Right.
Because now we know you're trying to pick those bucks to breed those does.
Right.
So you're ahead of the game, in my opinion, because you've done the hard work early.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying, well, I know what bucks are left, and I know these are going to breed these does, and I'm not going to shoot any more does because we've got our numbers where they need to be. We've shot our X amount of does, so we're pretty good,
Right.
So no, I think numbers could also be, and you tell me on your place, one of the number one priorities as a ranch manager. What I look at is habitat. Habitat.
And it's been a rough one this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm embarrassed to even say this, but I have nothing to hide. This year, the summer and fall were so harsh that I can see a browse line now.
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing to me.
Well, because we're managers and we know better.
Right.
And we're like, man, I know what that is. You know what you're seeing.
Right. And most people probably wouldn't
Don't ever notice
They
it.
wouldn't even know what a browse line is.
You can bring a hunter through the ranch and he'll never
They'll
notice
never see it.
They
So,
think,
okay,
the
what
leaves are falling off because we got to freeze and,
Yeah.
but you know exactly where that browse line is.
Right. Now I'll explain a browse line. So what a browse line is, if you don't know. So when you stand still and just look out into the brush, you can, sometimes it's a drastic, literal line.
Literally a line.
Sometimes it's a good fade. But if
Sure.
you look out and from, 4 feet down is really bare. You won't see any life,
Vegetation. Nothing coming off
nothing
of the
green,
bottom of
nothing
the
growing,
tree.
nothing coming up.
Yeah.
But then at about 4 feet or so and up, you do see some vegetation and some life in these bushes and trees. Well, what that's from is from basically your animals being freaking hungry.
Sure.
And they've got to eat and eat anything they can get their lips on. So they're from there down.
Well,
they're stripping it.
And your tender
Yeah.
is on the bottom.
Right.
So they start there and work their way up. So it's your browse line is.
So the higher that
and
line
and higher
gets,
is-
then
Correct.
the more shit you're in, basically.
Right. Basically, the more pronounced that you're like, okay, we
Yeah.
need to do something.
Right, and we just had no rain, so there was never any new grass and new tender stuff growing at the bottom of these bushes, and we were just wiped out. And we couldn't keep out enough protein. We couldn't keep out enough cottonseed.
Again, just because you know how I, ask you this or we try to do this. So knowing you have a browse line, knowing you had a hard summer, knowing you had a hard fall, y'all didn't have any rain.
No.
You had zero rain.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it just didn't happen. Y'all started out really good in the early spring.
Oh, it was awesome in the spring, and then
it just stopped. I
down to
mean,
nothing.
they just like zero for what, 6 months, 8 months?
Yeah, something like that.
Somewhere like that.
Yep.
And I know because I call you a lot, and I'll say, "Hey, how's the ranch looking?" And you're like, it's a desert.
Right. It literally is.
So with that being said, and me being the devil's advocate here, you asked about numbers. I keep saying numbers, density. So would you take that into account and say, okay, instead of shooting 10 does, let's take 13 or 14 or 15?
Yeah. Yeah, and we did. We killed more does this year than we have in the past.
There you go.
And something else that we did, I didn't even look at the 1-year-old bucks. Didn't even look at them because there's more.
Right.
We have more spikes on our ranch right now than I have
That
ever
had
seen in
because
my life.
They're stressed.
Right.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, that's a spike. You got to shoot it. No, you can. That's your business on your ranch.
Right.
But the way I took it this year was our summer was so hard. I don't know when that fawn was born.
Sure.
If he was born in.
Is he late fawn?
Yeah. Was he late?
Mm-hmm.
And then his first year of life and his first antler cycle was total garbage because he had nothing to eat. Those big bucks weren't letting him get to the protein feeders. Mama wasn't around to.
When is your rut traditionally?
December 10th, 15th, right in there. It's hard.
So, and I just had the discussion with another ranch manager about a week ago. He was at the ranch and we were sitting around talking. And he manages a ranch and they manage pretty hard. And he said that what they started doing on their does, they started measuring fetuses to know exactly when their rut was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I would feel like a jerk doing that, though. I would have a hard time with that. I'm not going to lie.
Why?
Well, just so you're going to have to wait So your does are bred.
Oh, no. They weren't picking late does. They were just, if they shot a doe, any doe,
They'd cut it open and
they
look.
check for fetuses.
Really?
Yes. Every doe that was shot on the ranch was checked for fetuses.
That's pretty intense.
And if she had a fetus, they measured her
To
know,
age it.
and then they would take the average and see when the rut was. And he said, you would be surprised when your rut is.
Wow.
He says, because when you're seeing the most rut activity, he said, what I think, and again, this is just us sitting around talking. Me and him, and I just went, huh. You know, I said, man, that makes sense. He said, in the biggest part of it, he said, when you see those bucks chasing those does and up and down a Sendero and they're doing all this and acting crazy and stupid, he said, it's actually almost post-rut.
Really?
He said, because they're looking for does because most of them are bred already.
They're looking for that one girl that's like, woo, I'm ready.
Right. And the other day I had some hunters, we were driving through the pasture, and it was funny. There was a doe laying down in an open field. She was under a tree. There was a big mesquite tree. She was bedded down, and we saw 4 bucks standing around her. 4 bucks. And those guys said, I've never, ever seen anything like that. And I said, that's pretty cool, isn't it? And they're like, they're just waiting
for her to stand up.
And there was the guy that was probably going to breed her. I was hoping was going to breed her. I mean, I wanted to run the rest of them off, but they were going to come right back, you know.
Yeah.
They were all pretty deer, but one was like above and beyond. And I thought, boy, and he was the one closest to her, standing there tending her. He was the one tending her.
Yeah.
And the others were off
just in
50, 60, 80 yards. I mean, just kind of standing there just in case somebody got in a fight and, you know, got beat up and they got the opportunity to step in.
Yeah.
But his deal was, he said, I think they're breeding earlier than what you think. He said, and then those spikes, because he said the same thing. He said, I'm not saying spikes. He said, but those late fawns, he said, is the next cycle, which you've AI'd deer. You know what the cycles are.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's had those. I just had a fawn in August.
Yeah.
How many breeders have said that?
Oh.
They hate it. I just had a fawn in August. I'm going to have to bottle raise it. Why? Second cycle, third cycle. You missed the first one. You got the second one. So now, you know, your deer that are normally bred in late November are cycling into December and then into January. And then they're having these late, you know. But back to numbers. If your numbers are tight, and all your does get bred first go around. If you've got a one, and everybody goes, well, you know, ideally everybody wants a 1-to-1 buck to doe ratio.
Right.
You know, it's hard to do.
Sure.
Very hard to do. But, and again, I mean, you know, anybody's got any ideas, questions, or, hey, I think you're wrong, I'd love to hear it. I'm not going to dispute it. I'm just saying, okay, well, this is what I've seen.
Right.
But.
Well, I want to back up real quick. So, I want to go back to shooting doe fawns because this still it
bothers you.
It does.
It bothers you more than anything.
It really does. Well, here's my thinking, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but I can't get this thought out of my head. So every year we're managing our deer for better genetics.
Right.
We want these better genetics to pass on, and with any luck, every year our deer are getting a little bit bigger, and the genetics are getting just a little bit better because we're practicing that. So this year, you know, I'm working, and next year I'm working, and everything's getting better. Everything's going to plan. Wouldn't my younger does have the better genetics versus these older girls that are in the pasture?
Maybe. But what about that 4-year-old 120-inch buck?
Well,
where's his sister?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
3 years ago.
If she's 4.
Right, but 3 years ago she was a fawn. How do you know?
Well, I don't know. Damn it.
You don't know.
I don't know.
That's the whole question mark on our management deal.
But statistically speaking,
yes.
I feel like my thinking, and of course it's me thinking it, so you're not, it's going to be hard pressed to tell me I'm wrong.
Sure.
Even though I'm pretty sure I am wrong. But You know what I mean? It's just, it's in my head already.
Sure.
So I feel like I have to. It's going to be hard. I'm going to need some serious
I
scientific.
can't wait for him to get here. I really can't. I mean, I'm excited about getting him on.
Oh, I know.
And visiting with him because there's a lot of knowledge there.
And
like I said, proof is in the pudding. I mean, they got some big deer.
They do.
And I love big deer.
Yeah.
I like big deer, man.
He makes me feel like an idiot sometimes talking to him, though. Because he likes to use big words.
Yeah. Well, it comes with his profession.
Yeah. Madison, have you read any questions? I can't see anything over there.
Nobody likes this.
Everybody liked the fire in the background. So those of you that can't see this, we're sitting in the middle of my den, and we got the Christmas tree behind us, deer heads on the wall, and then the TV was just sitting there looking all goofy. So we put the fireplace scene on, and it looks cozy. Leo and I are going to hold hands here in a little bit.
Even though that I'm wearing shorts.
Yeah. It's like
we have the
80,
fire going.
Right, it's 80 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. We could spend all day talking about shooting fawns and does and stuff.
Sure.
High fence versus low fence is a big debate, big argument. You and I both catch hell for it daily.
And I've managed both.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, our ranch was low fence we've had the ranch now 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it was low fence for probably 13, 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked well for us. We didn't even really feed protein back then.
Mm-hmm.
Just
didn't know.
Yeah, and it wasn't.
Didn't need it. Yeah, it wasn't a thing.
Yeah, and you know, my dad was paying all the bills, and he's
Sure.
like, hey, you know, I don't see a need in feeding protein, and finally convinced him into feeding it, and then he noticed that antlers seemed a little bit bigger that year, and I said, well, just wait.
Weights.
I said, wait for 5 years.
Yeah.
Because in 5 years, that's when we'll notice a real difference in the protein
Sure.
feeding. And that's something, I guess we should touch on that since I just said it. A lot of people don't realize when you start feeding protein, you may notice a little bit of a difference that following year.
Right.
But the biggest gain,
3 to 5 probably.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to tell people 5 because that's when, I mean, it's on. Mm-hmm. Because that doe, she had the best nutrition she could get. Then she was bred. Her babies were as healthy as they could be when they were born.
Right.
And then it just, they're as healthy and as big as they can be from day one.
Sure.
And then by the time they're mature deer, it's a huge difference.
Yep. Body weights go up.
Yes.
Antler weights. I mean, antler,
Everything.
measurements go up.
Yeah. So if you're reluctant to feed protein, I get it. It's not cheap. But I do suggest it. We've been feeding Record Rack for years now, and I mean we've noticed a huge difference in it. You know, all the deer behind us. I don't want to say all of them, but most of them were killed. The ranch was low fence when all these were harvested. And I don't think any of these, maybe one of them was killed when we were feeding protein, maybe. And, but now these are semi-average deer.
Do you keep records on all the bucks?
No, of course I don't.
Yeah.
No. Paperwork is not my strong suit.
Yeah.
I do my best to keep up with my state
Sure.
paperwork because I have to.
Yeah.
And so if I keep up with that, then I'm happy because I suck at
and that's
paperwork.
fine. Yeah.
But
I do know there's ranches and like you said, you'll have some people on here that say we've got records going back 20 years.
Oh yeah.
Every buck, every doe, because I've been on a couple ranches where we did that. We
that would be cool to see because then you could damn well you could see the drought years and just the fluctuation and things.
We weighed every doe. We aged every doe by the jaw. You know, and we would keep them. It was weird. We had stacks of jaws.
Dang.
I mean, we would put them in. We'd clean them.
Yeah.
Just cut them, peel them. Get them down to the bone.
Right.
And write down, the number that was on our
like
records.
a harvest log.
Like number one, doe number one, and we would have her weight and her age, and then we would take that jaw and write number one on it and the year.
Wow.
And at the end of the season, we'd have a box full of, and you could go back and
Wow.
for no other reason. I don't know why, because we were just nuts about data.
Yeah, because we're deer nerds.
Because we're nerds and we want to know.
Yeah.
And there's another really good friend of mine on the Faith Ranch. You want to talk about keeping immaculate records? They keep records. Rainfall, they can tell you the rainfall pattern for the last, since they've had the ranch probably.
Wow.
They've got, of course, it's a big ranch. It's 45,000 acres.
Good night.
And they've got, and here's something that's really cool. They've got rain gauges all over the ranch, obviously. You can't just have one at the gate and go,
no.
Okay, because sometimes it rains at the front and not at the back.
Right.
Or it'll rain at the headquarters and not over here.
Especially when you're that big.
Yeah, it's tough. But so they've got gauges by pasture literally all over the ranch, and they can check it and they write it down, and they can almost, like you said, they can almost tell you by antler size because they measure every deer. It doesn't matter what it is. If they hits the ground, they measure it and they record it. Boone and Crockett, and they put the age and they put the weight. And their data goes up and down with the rain. And they've actually, like I was talking about the guy that said that they measure the fetuses. They can almost tell you, okay, it rained in March and April, we're going to have a great season. Or it rained in June and July. So that's what they use to adjust their numbers,
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It affects that much, the rainfall, and they feed.
Yeah.
They feed. They put protein out. They feed a lot. They spend a lot of money on protein. Trust me. They put a lot of feed out, and they take care of the deer herd. It's probably one of the, scrutinized herds you've ever seen because they're serious about it, and they've got a lot invested in it, and so they stay on top of it. But they can almost track, like you said, with the rainfall, what the deer are going to do when it rains.
Right.
And I don't want to quote him because I don't want to misquote him, but I want to say he told me one time it was March and April were the most important months, and everything.
That makes sense because that body condition's got to get
just start to grow out. And even though they're in the middle of it during the summer, I don't know. I'm guessing that maybe they've just done what they're going to do and it's going to push. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe somebody knows, that's listening and can say, no, dummy, this is what it is.
No, I definitely agree. I do think that our late winter, spring is the most critical time for those bucks.
Yep.
Because they need, their body's got to get back up to par before their body's going to really be concerned about antlers.
Yep.
And you want that deer as big and as healthy before he even casts his antlers.
Sure.
Because as soon as he casts those antlers, new ones are coming.
Yeah, they're coming.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But if he's a little puny, if he's wore down.
And that gets into something else. And I had thought about this the other day, and me and you talked about it on the phone, I think. And I think it was me and you. About feeding year round.
Yeah.
You'd asked me, do we feed year round? And I thought me and you had talked about it here not too long ago, but, and I said, we do, we don't stop the protein.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that do.
Sure.
And I get it. Again, it's personal choice. You can stop it. You can not. I choose not to because I feel like, the hardest time is the rut. They're chasing, they're losing weight. They're running hard. And I actually watched a buck, me and Madison, the other day, we were watching a buck chase a doe. And he was pushing her hard. He was just, and it was, probably middle-aged deer, probably 3-year-old deer. And he just relentless on this doe, just pushing and pushing and pushing. She happened to run by a protein feeder. And in our pens, we have pens around our feeders. We actually have them up off the ground.
Right.
Not where they don't jump over, they crawl under.
Yeah.
So we leave it, a couple feet off the ground, then we have panels above that.
Yeah, I love that design.
And so she goes underneath, she trots across, goes out the other side. Kind of like, tag, you can't catch me, Well, he goes underneath, He starts walking across. He stops, and I told her, I said, watch. I said, watch that buck. Picked his head up. He took 2 bites.
No way.
Stuck his nose in there. He took 2 bites, turned around, and was right back on her. And I was like, yes.
Wow.
He got a mouthful of protein. You know, it doesn't matter. No, but that tells me that they do eat.
Not much.
Not much. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But he's eating something.
Yeah.
And I was
Wow.
like, okay, awesome. But again, what happens is the does come in to eat because they're not chasing, obviously.
Yeah.
So, and then the bucks come in. So when the bucks come in to work the does, they're going to stick their nose in there.
Yeah.
And it might be a bite or 2. That's okay. But the next time they come check, another bite or 2. And then they're going to keep, sticking their nose in there because I want their body conditions to be as good as they can. When people say, oh, we're going to start feeding January 15th or we're going to start feeding February 1st. I don't know what that magical number is, but
Yeah.
maybe that's, when they just decided that's when we're going to start feeding. I get it. But after seeing that, and I've tried to every ranch that I can, and some can't, obviously it's expensive.
Very expensive.
It's very expensive. So some people just say, well, no, we just can't. Okay, well, cool. But if you can, and you can afford to do it, and you're choosing not to just because, I don't want the bucks going over there. I want them coming to the corn. Personally, I think it's wrong. I think you should feed year-round if you can afford it because you're trying to keep that body condition up because it's so important coming into February and March.
Yeah. Well, and I'm guilty of pulling the protein. I was feeding protein up to about early October, and I noticed all my trail cam footage of all of our target bucks for this year. It's midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. They're out there eating, and from a business aspect,
Sure.
and I sound like a jerk saying this, but I can't have those bucks eating in the middle of the night.
Sure.
I need them to come into my corn
in the daytime.
in the morning,
Yep.
or come in so that we can see them.
Yep.
And we have a better chance of harvesting them.
With a hunter. Yeah, absolutely.
So that was my main thing with pulling the protein. Or I didn't pull it, but I let it
shut
run
it
out.
down. Yeah.
And we'll pick back up like now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got some protein out now. I've got peanut hay coming.
Yep.
Cotton seeds on
Cotton
order.
seed, yep.
The whole
Sure.
gamut, the whole 9 yards.
Sure.
And we're going to throw it to them as hard as we can.
Sure. What have you noticed on body conditions?
What do you mean? Like right now?
Yeah.
Oh, the bucks look
Look
I mean,
all right.
they're thin.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got big mature bucks that
Yeah.
look like teenagers. They look like little
Yeah.
scrawny bucks running around just because they're
Yeah.
tired, they're
Yeah.
wore out.
Yeah.
But that ain't stopping them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah.
Now the younger bucks, they look fine
Yeah.
because they're not
Yeah.
trying
'cause they're-
that
'cause they're-
hard.
They're teenagers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, the older guys, they really just their belly.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, they're
backside of them looks a
losing
little
their
drawn
bellies.
in.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be fine. It does suck this year because we've had no rain, so there is nothing for them to eat.
Yeah.
But we're not going to let them die.
Right. No. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when we feed enough.
Sure.
And I don't want to say we're feeding just enough to keep them alive,
Sure.
but you know what I mean.
Sure.
But now we're at that point now where we're going to just start hammering them with feed.
Yeah.
All they can eat. And I don't care when they eat. If they can eat at 3 o'clock in the morning for till noon.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Just get it in you.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We were talking about high fence and low fence, and now we're talking about protein.
We always do that.
Yeah.
Let's go from
That worked out well.
Jump from A to Z pretty quick.
Yeah. No, man.
I don't know. You asked about the high fence and low fence, and I think it's cool to be able to hunt low fence.
Sure.
I mean, I really do. I've managed some fantastic low fence ranches. I mean, and grew some big deer.
And in all honesty,
Mm-hmm.
you and I, we've been around deer pens and breeding deer for a while.
Sure.
And been on countless high fence ranches.
Mm-hmm.
But I know damn well that if I said, hey, Leo, I've got a buddy with 1,000 acres down the road, low fence. He doesn't really do anything out there. He says we can go out there and hunt and kill a deer. We'd both go in a heartbeat.
I'd go take my bow with me is what I'd do.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'd go hunt. And if we didn't kill a deer, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if we did kill a deer, we'd both I feel like we both want a mature deer.
Sure.
We're not going to shoot a 3-year-old deer just because somebody said we could.
That's right.
And we'd be damn proud of it if it scored 120.
Absolutely.
Or if it scored 220.
The trophies is where are you hunting? It's different to everybody. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
It's different to everybody.
The size of the buck has very little to do with the trophy.
Yeah.
Like, you've got a 6-point on your ranch that drives me nuts.
Yep.
I mean, that deer's so big.
Yep.
But he's only a 6. He's not going to score much.
He's not going to score nothing.
I mean, if he hit 120, that would be pretty high.
Yep.
But we think he's going to be in the high teens.
Yeah, I think so.
Somewhere in that range.
I think so.
But, dude, that is
a
trophy.
I shot and I'm trying to remember back, we saw him out of the helicopter and everybody went, ah! And I went, oh, it's just a 6. And I recognized him when we did our survey and we saw him, but he is big, but he's probably going to be in the high teens. I've shot one other that's bigger.
Really?
Yeah. He was, I don't know, about 22, 23, 123.
That's a 6?
A 6.
That's
with brow tines, forks and brows.
That's not a
slick, not 3 and 3.
Right.
With no brows. I mean, he was brow tines and forks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah, he was big. He was real big.
But even weird stuff, buck that grows one side out perfect and the other side is just janky. I mean, I've got one sitting over here on the mantle.
People like that.
I love it.
People love
I love the crazy stuff. I mean, hell, it's in the name.
The different stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's guys out there, as you well know, you had an 8-point and it took you probably 4.5 seconds to have somebody jump up and say, I want him.
Oh, man. From the time I started showing pictures of that deer, I had people wanting to line up to kill him. I said, no, he's way too young. We're not going to do it yet. And we did end up harvesting him this year. And he was a little smaller than we thought.
Yeah.
But he was 145 inches, and that still is a trophy.
It's a great
8-point.
Yeah.
I mean, 100% slick 8 points.
Yeah. Not a bump on him. Not a
and the guy
8 with a kicker.
No. Slick, true 8.
Yeah.
And the guy got him with his bow. We were at I think 16 yards or 14 yards when he put the arrow through him, and it was a really exciting hunt. Yeah, that was cool.
I think that honestly the whole high fence, low fence thing, I really think, like you said earlier, the fence is more of a tool.
Oh yeah.
More than anything. Because why are you going to put the expense on a ranch to build a high fence? Because it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's real expensive.
Yeah, it was $100 and something thousand to fence our little place.
So it's expensive. So if you don't need it, why are you going to do it? But it becomes a tool because you either have neighbors, you've got something going on,
right?
And everybody's got horror stories, we were on a ranch back in the, I don't know, probably mid-90s, early 90s, mid-90s, and a fantastic place. And it was low fence, and it was, I think we were 17,000 acres. And we would manage from the middle out.
That makes sense.
Because of the fences.
Sure.
Our neighbors we got tired of fighting them.
Right.
And now the ranch is fenced. The guy bought it, they sold it, and we were on the ranch about, I don't know, probably 9 years, 8 or 9 years. And then the ranch sold, and the new owner immediately drove the fence line and just went, okay, I just spent X amount of dollars on this ranch to come hunt, and these guys have blinds and feeders literally right down the fence line.
Oh, geez.
I mean, literally, they were, right down the fence, and he's like, this is not going to work. Why can't they back up? And we're like, oh, I don't know. We've asked them, hey, can you back up a little bit? Well, I don't have to. Okay.
You're right. And they don't.
You don't.
It sucks, but
you don't have to. You're right. We asked, they didn't. So we managed literally from the middle out to the outside, and we forsake a lot of deer that went across the fence that were getting shot at 2 and 3 year old because they could. And it was like, okay,
I think the straw that broke the camel's back at our place. The neighbors would talk, we would talk, and hey, we're trying to manage this. So, how many mature bucks are you going to harvest this year, and us, da 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 da. And they talked a good game, but they killed a 147-inch 10-point.
3.5.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great deer. I mean, that's an awesome deer in anybody's book.
Yeah.
But he was a 3-year-old deer.
Everybody with a high fence has that story.
Yeah, they do.
Everybody with a high fence says, man, I watched this deer for 4 years. Watched him as a yearling, saw him as a 2-year-old, saw him as a 3-year-old. He turned 4. He got to be 150, 155, which is fantastic.
Right. What would he have done at 6?
We're trying to get him to 60s, 70s,
And he'd have made it.
And that magic number is 170, and we're trying to get him to 70, and he probably would have done it. And then all of a sudden the neighbors go, man, we shot a really good buck. Come look at him. And you walk up and there's that deer that you've been watching for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, and you're mad.
Sure, you're upset because you've passed him and passed him and passed him and passed him.
But legally, they did nothing wrong.
No, that's their deer just as much as it is yours.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. If he jumps that fence, he belongs to them.
That's right.
And there's nothing you can do about it, but it just makes you mad enough to say, okay, let's order some T-posts and some wire.
Let's get to work.
Let's get to work. And that's unfortunately, that's why there's so many high fences in Texas. I really believe that. Unless you're a huge, now even then, like I said, I know some big ranches that have partial fences.
Right.
Because of one neighbor. And they'll say, just run it from, a half a mile before you get to their fence to a half a mile past their corners, corner to corners.
Right.
And if they don't throw a message out there, nothing does. If they don't get it with that, they're not gonna.
Right. Well,
they look up and go, what the heck?
And they're not.
No, they're not.
They're not going to
They just think you're the bad guy.
Sure.
They're the bad guy. They're the landowner. They own the big ranch and blah, 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 blah. They want all the deer and, no. They're just trying to do the right thing. And
and I feel bad now because those guys have since sold the ranch, and we have new neighbors now, and they're nice guys. We've got no problems with them, but I feel bad for those guys because
fence ain't coming down.
Well, no, it's not. It's not. We've got deer just too damn big. We've got too much money, time, blood, sweat, and tears into it. So.
Absolutely.
But we ran into him one day and said, "Hey, man, how's it going?" "Oh, pretty good." And so, how are the deer looking over there? And he had this kind of confused look on his face. And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, how your trail cameras? How your bucks? What you got? What are you seeing?" "There's no deer over here." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Dude, we've had the ranch for," I think he said, like 6-8 months. And he goes, "We haven't seen any
That's sad.
deer." I said, "Well, I've seen you hunting." He said, "Well, I've been out sitting.
Yeah.
I ain't been seeing."
Yeah.
I've been seeing hogs and turkeys. But,
so now this guy's got 350 acres. So what's his option? Well, let's just go ahead and fence off the whole thing and try to bring some deer in and start managing and let them grow. And
he didn't. They didn't. They left it low fenced, and now I think we're 4 years down the road from the time it sold or something like that. And oh man, our fireplace went off.
Are they seeing any deer?
They are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are now. Oh,
you lit the fire back.
Yeah. Good deal. Oh, it's rated TVG.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good thing, because everybody can watch this on Facebook.
I don't even know where I was going with that.
Good. They're seeing deer, even though.
Yeah. But in a way that I was looking at that from a management.
Sure.
And I was like, well, dude,
but
your deer are gone.
But it's a different.
Now. Is a perfect opportunity to come in and just do it how you want it.
Yeah.
I would have put a fence up.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. That would have been my thought.
You got no deer. Why not?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Put the fence up, buy some deer from a breeder.
Yep.
Kick them out.
You're going to wait for 3 years anyway, which is what they've done their year before.
Right. And you would have had monsters out there.
Sure.
But people, I get it. You don't want to spend the money.
It's economics. It's, what do they want to do? And maybe they just want to go hang out and sit around and
drink beer. And that's
drink beer and shoot a deer every now and then.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
More power to them.
We get pretty intense, with our big deer, and we get intense with our management, and I certainly do. I mean, I like
to think I do, but I don't shoot doe fawns, so evidently I'm doing shit wrong.
Well, I haven't on this ranch, but I have in the past. I'm gonna admit to this.
Well, I just feel like such a jerk. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a big sissy when it comes to shooting deer in deer stand. Like, even when it's time to shoot does, and I'm like, man, we got to slaughter these girls. I know we do. And then I'll go out, and then a doe, big, nice, healthy doe comes out, and she's got 2 fawns. I'm like,
better.
I just
Even
can't
better.
do it.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, no, I didn't really see anything.
I'm going to tell you, you want one of your, not a horror story. We were shooting does on a ranch in the hill country. They'd gone up there, and it was outside of Fredericksburg. And I had a hunter, and they said, hey, he was hunting a buck. And they said, but also we're getting our number. They were way overpopulated. I mean, they had a lot of deer. And they were trying to get their deer down. And it was a pretty good sized ranch. And so the manager tells me, hey, when you sit with him, and we're hunting pretty specific bucks. I mean, they were, we had a target deer. And he said, if the deer doesn't come in, he said, you have some does come in. He said, could you shoot some? And I said, okay, how many? And he said, all of them. He said, anything you can shoot. We're trying to get our doe numbers. We're way overpopulated with does. And they had, they were high fenced. And he said they hadn't really done much in the past, so we need to get these numbers way down. And I know this is going to go out on the podcast, and we're on Facebook Live, but I'm going to tell you what. So what we do when we're shooting does, because you got to get in that mindset of we've got to take these numbers down.
Yeah.
It's a job.
It is.
So what I did with this guy, we sat, it was getting late, it was nothing but does. And there was a bunch. And I'm like, I said, man, they'd have a lot of does. And he's like, can we shoot some? And I said, yeah, do you have a problem shooting does? And he said, no. He said, tell me which ones and I'll shoot them. And I said, okay. So, we had like a spike come in and like 6 does. And we were like, okay. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And again, this is going to go out in the cyber world, but it is what it is, because this is part of what we do. So I said, okay. I said, you see that big doe right there? And I pointed her out. I said, she's standing right there. And he's like, yeah. I said, you're going to shoot that doe. I said, they're going to scatter. I said, and when that one standing next to her runs off, I said, it's going to stop. And when it stopped and looked back at his mama, I said, shoot it.
Damn.
And he went, okay. And he shot the doe, dropped her right there. The yearling ran off, stopped, looked back. By this time he'd cranked. He was on her, stopped. I said, you on her? Yep. Take it. Pow. Shot 2.
Damn.
We had the high count for the weekend on the does.
I guess
because
so.
My guy was like, okay, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. And it was a great guy. I mean, he was like, the guy, I heard him. He said we could, he needed shoot does.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And we shot a bunch of does that weekend. And it sounds cruel and it sounds bad.
It sounds terrible, but I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just not that guy.
Yeah.
Hell, I still cry when I'm watching movies, so I can't.
You're the guy I saw say, okay, we shot that pig. I don't think he died. Let me go see if he's in the brush and finish him off.
Mm-hmm.
You told me that.
Yes.
You got out of my truck, walked through the brush, and found the hog and finished him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And left him there, but
and when you got, no, I get it. He was a big boar, but when you got back, you said, man, I just didn't want to see him suffer.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I can't.
Like, I know a lot of people shoot pigs in the gut. Just shoot them damn things in the gut. Just shoot the shit out of them and let them run. I can't. I don't know.
So, yeah.
I'm a big sissy. But, I mean, dude, I don't even kill deer anymore. Yeah. I killed a deer.
I haven't. Yeah.
When the hell? I killed a deer in 2019 in late December. I was in the blind with my wife and my kids. I'm surprised we even saw any deer, but that's a whole other story. This buck comes in and I look and I'm like, what is going on? His jaw's hanging down. What appears to be his jaw. And I got a closer look. And as soon as I put the binos on the deer, I said, well, I've got to shoot this deer. My wife says, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, the skin on his jaw is hanging down. I said, his jaw isn't still intact. I said, I'm watching him try to eat corn, but the skin is dragging in the ground.
Right.
I said, this deer's going to die of infection, or he's going to suffer and die. So I've got to take this deer. I don't want to, but I have no hunters in camp. I can't just make a phone call and get somebody out here to harvest the deer. So I'm just going to do it now. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, I shoot the deer, and sure enough, he had gotten in a fight and got hooked right underneath the bottom, or right in the bottom lip, I guess you'd call it, and
just
then
skinned it.
Yeah, and then just ripped it all the way back to his throat.
Yep.
And it was just hanging, and it was disgusting. I felt horrible. But that was the deer I sent you the picture of the upper jaw.
Yep, I remember.
And we're both like, yeah, he was old enough to go,
Right.
but it just the circumstances didn't make it fun.
How many deer, speaking of that, and I know I think about this all the time because we found one the other day. We were actually looking for another deer. I had a hunter shoot an axis, and we were looking for the axis, and I found that deer. How many deer do you think are lost because of never mind the coyotes, never mind the predators, never mind the natural stuff, the fighting?
A lot.
I think so too. A lot more than what people realize.
Yeah.
And I just saw a picture the other day. Marco put a picture up yesterday or the day before of a deer with one eye.
One eye, yeah.
You see that picture?
I did, yeah.
I mean, he got stabbed in the eyeball, and I mean, I've found them locked up.
Sure.
I've got a couple of sets of deer that are locked up that I've found, mostly because we scour looking for sheds.
Right.
And then we come up on them and go, oh, great.
Yeah.
No wonder we
Dang
couldn't
it.
find this buck.
Right.
And it might be a buck. One time we found it. We were doing our survey, end of the year survey. This ranch, we did a before season and after season. And we were doing our after, and we were flying, and the pilot goes, oh, there's a deadhead. And I said, turn around. And he turned around and he went, oh man, they're locked up. And we landed, and I ran over there and drug it out in a sendero and left it. I thought we'll come back for it later. But it was a buck that we'd been hunting.
Yeah.
Couldn't find him. And I kept thinking, man, this deer is a big mature deer. And I was like, man, where'd he go? Where'd he go? This joker just disappeared on us. I'm just missing him. He went nocturnal, all this stuff. I'm trying to,
But knowing deep inside that something bad's probably happened.
Something happened, and there he was. He was locked up with another deer, and they both died. And what was bad, I took it to the taxidermist, and I said, hey, can you get this, can you do Europeans, or, I want to put them on a coffee table or something. And the first thing he said was, man, this is pretty bad. He said, this buck here was dead a little bit longer than this one. And you just think, this dude carried around another head or drug it around till he couldn't drag it no more.
Damn.
And then the coyotes got him or something.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Wow. We had a lot more stuff we wanted to talk about on this podcast, but we've already been going over an hour.
Well, we can shut it down and do another one later.
I think we should.
Yes, sir. We've bored people long enough.
Yeah. But that reminds me, I have a head in the garage I want to show you of the same exact story of deer we were hunting.
Yep.
And he stopped showing up. Things stopped being normal with this deer. And this deer was one of those deer that's just clockwork. You could set your watch by how this deer acted and moved and did things. And then all of a sudden it was like, something's not right.
Yep.
I'm like, well, maybe this, maybe that, maybe, and I'm like, in the back of my mind, no, it's bad. Yeah. Whatever it is, it's bad.
Yeah, he got beat up, or he got. Yep. Usually it's side swipe. They're fighting with another deer, and another one hits them on the side.
Yeah, there's like a viral video I've seen going around of two bucks fighting, and one just comes up, and bam, lays them out. And those antlers are sharp.
Yeah, they are.
And with that kind of force, I mean, you're talking about a couple 100-pound deer running.
Full,
and then bam.
Yep.
That's gonna.
Oh, it's gonna leave a mark.
It's gonna hurt.
Yep.
And sadly, they'll probably die of infection, and guts get punctured, and slow, painful. Mm-hmm. Which is, as sportsmen, managers, and things like, we never want to see that. But
hate to see it.
But it's Mother Nature.
Yep.
Yep. It happens. It happens to humans.
Mm-hmm.
So. Well, guys, we are going to cut it off here. We'll go back through the questions, and I apologize we didn't get to any of the questions. Leo just wouldn't shut up.
We probably didn't have any questions.
Probably not. Probably not.
We didn't have that. We're just trying to sound like we had some.
Right. We sound important. So we'll look back and
if they like the Facebook Live, maybe down the road we'll do another one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, let us know. We definitely want to know how this went over. Obviously, it's the first time for us to do a live anything. So. We're going to cut it here, but we're going to go back over the Facebook footage. If there's questions, we're going to come back. We're going to record another episode, and I don't know when it'll play. I don't even know when this one will play.
Yep.
But we've got to have good stuff for you guys to listen to, or at least half-ass good stuff.
Yep.
I don't know. Anyways, we appreciate it, and we'd like to thank Record Rack for providing us a great product. We both use it all the time, and we'll catch you later.
Yes, sir.
Peace out.